T-minus. That's not August. T-minus 1 minute. If you please take your seats, buckle your seatbelts, and we'll be taking off in just 30 seconds. Please take your seats. We're not going. You got a minute. We're getting ready to take off. Well, it says 29. Yep. I'm still away. All right. Welcome, everyone. And it is 6:30 on October 9th, 2024. At this point, we're going to go ahead and open up. And to lead us, if you all please stand, and Dennis, will you please lead us in prayer? And Mike's over.
Heavenly Father, we come before you tonight with humble hearts, seeking your guidance and wisdom as we gather to create the charter for our city. We recognize the significance of the work before us and the responsibility we bear to serve the people of McLendon-Chisholm with integrity, honor, and fairness. We ask for your presence in this meeting. Lead us to make decisions that reflect your will, that uphold justice, and that serve the best interests of every citizen. Give us discernment to consider each matter thoughtfully and wisdom to lay a strong foundation for the future of our community. Help us work together in unity, respecting each other's ideas and contributions, and seeking solutions that protect the values which we hold dear, our faith, our families, and the freedom we cherish as Texans and Americans. May we always seek your truth and righteousness in every step we take. We ask for your blessing on this meeting, and may the work we do tonight honor you and bring about lasting good for our city. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Leslie, would you like to introduce your guest today?
This is my daughter, Samantha, joining us today. And she has lots of opinions, so we can...
Oh, good. Well, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Okay, go ahead and pass this down.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now the Texas flag.
On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one indivisible.
God bless Texas.
Texas.
Very good. Thank you. All right. Well, I'll never pass up an opportunity for the future leaders of our country to do the pledges. And I will tell you, if anyone wants to come, and if you're listening online and you have kids and they want to do it, they can come, and we'll let them do that. So with that being said, we are going to go ahead and open up the meeting. And we're going to go ahead and review the minutes. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes? All right. At this time, I'll accept a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll motion.
We have a motion by Dennis. Do we have a second? And a second by Troy. Okay, any discussion? All right, seeing no discussion. Call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. All right, so now we're going to go in. This is we're going to be going into our next round of template discussions. Tonight we will be talking about 3 issues. We will be talking about from near the end, the charter amendments. Tonight's big meaty one we're going to talk about is city council, and then the potential of recall elections. I expect that I would like first, before we get into recalls, we figure out what our council looks like. So that's going to be the main work tonight. Anything else that we'll talk about? We will hopefully get to recall, and if we can't, we'll just push recall to the next meeting if we don't have time. Ground rules tonight. Last meeting, we got close, but we didn't get offended. But I want you to know that tonight I want you to talk about the issues. It's not personal, but I want to make sure that we're talking about what we're talking about. It's not personal. Everyone tonight, if we're going to have an argument, tonight's subject is going to do that with City Council. So I want everyone to bring up what they think. We're going to respect each other's ideas, and then we're going to work through it. If you start to attack others or make comments about things that aren't, I'm going to rule you out of order because we got to stay on topic, but we need to stay focused on what we're looking at. There's no right or wrong answers. We're building a document. So with that, I will allow anyone to go ahead, and what I would like to start with is we're going to move into the council, and I think the easy one to kind of ease us into it, kind of like taking off in an airplane, will be, let's start first off with compensation. And I think that section is compensation first, gives the rules whether we think that council should, and what your ideas of that. That's an easy one, and I think once we get that, then we can start getting into the harder, more debatable, but we'll get an easy win about should we or should we not do compensation, and what language would you like to use. Tony, today I'm going to start with you. Since last week I started with Leslie, I rotated it out.
Other than, I didn't see one that stood out, that, on deal, but my personal belief is that, as being a public servant, that they know what they're getting into, and I would feel the same way if I ran for council, that maybe a small stipend to help with, if we needed to get dinner real quick or something like that, like maybe $10 a piece to each council member. I don't think it should be any more than that. I don't think we're at that size. We're not that large a city right now, and it can be changed later on. So that's my deal.
Okay. Ready?
I am going to echo Tony. I feel like had we elected to do mayor-led city versus city manager-led, at that point I feel that what we would have been asking our mayor and our council to have done would have been significantly more. But since we've chosen to do city manager-led, at this point, I think I like the idea of the stipend. I actually had not thought of that. I think there could be some language related to that, just in recognition and appreciation, but not from a compensatory perspective.
It's basically a volunteer position. You do get elected. I don't see a reason for any type of salary. I know that there's a lot of time, energy, and effort that goes in on councilmen and councilwomen. Well, okay, I'm being nice here.
Council member?
Council member, there we go. And from that perspective, I didn't think about the stipend as far as, if they're running late or doing something. I don't know if that currently comes out of, is it the city budget? Does city administrator do it? Does the mayor? Does somebody else pick it up? Do they all go out of pocket? I don't know if they're bringing in burgers or pizzas or whatever. So I don't know how that's currently working. If that's working today, let's continue doing what they're doing. I just don't know what that is. Maybe Jerry can fill us in.
So any expense that we do on behalf of the city will get reimbursed for it. We'll typically, what we've been doing is on city council nights, they'll bring in pizza or burger, and we start using it right out there.
And the city pays for that?
City pays.
Roberta?
Well, I agree with Tony, and I'm sorry, I forgot your name.
Dennis.
Dennis. I agree with Tony and Dennis, so I'm not going to waste any time.
James?
Same on board with the position remaining, voluntary. The stipend idea is interesting. I'm kind of indifferent to it as far as what we do with it. As far as verbiage, I thought it was pretty clean the way he threw it out, and it kind of describes exactly the way that Jerry explained the current system to be. incur an expense, they turn in an expense report, and if it's approved, it gets reimbursed.
Yeah, so I'm going to allow everyone else to say, but I would just at this point also allow you to look at, I think the verbiage I was looking at was Roy City's 3.3, Article 3, City Council. There's not a page number on it, but that's what I would ask you to look at as language. But I'm going to allow Melody right here. Yeah, and it says 3.05 on top corner. And then it's section 303. So, and I'll read the language when I allow everyone else, I'll come back.
I was curious about this, does that actually include the council voting themselves in salary or raise?
So what this one would say is compensation of city council shall be determined by city council by ordinance, but not increase in such compensation shall take effect until commencement of the terms of mayor and/or council members elected at the next general election. The city council shall also be entitled to reimbursement for the actual expenses incurred in the performance of official duties with the approval of the city council at a public meeting. So if there ever did get to a point where they voted in by ordinance that could do that, as things change, but they would, obviously, it would be by ordinance and not by an issue of, they would have to vote for it, so you would still have an opportunity to voice your opinions and do that. And that way, they can explain themselves at that point. And I think that's the fair point to that, Tony. I think that addresses you, and I think it addresses, we're not saying free forever, we're saying that basically, your council has the answer to that. And that's what I look at.
I think with Roy City, though, the way that it's worded, the compensation of the city council shall be determined by city council, it infers that there is compensation as I read that, versus he, where it says shall serve without compensation. It's very clear that this is a voluntary position. So I guess it's just to a layman's.
Yeah, because Roy City doesn't get paid.
Right.
So, I mean, that's why I brought them up, because I know they don't get paid.
Yeah.
So,
Is that where you got the draft from? The one draft that we got?
That's mine.
I think
Is that
that's,
your draft?
yeah.
Yeah, that's, I agree with serving without compensation as a volunteer, and it can be changed later if people decide it should be changed later, the taxpayers, I would say. But the expenses certainly should be covered.
I would agree with Jody. I like that we come out and say it's a volunteer position. I would read into that, well, we'll just vote ourselves, and I think I'll get reelected, so let's do it. So that's why I would specifically say that. And as far as someday we may get big enough and it's a paid position, but we can update the charter.
Correct.
We don't need to.
Correct.
As far as I'm concerned. And secondly, I am totally in favor of expensing actual expenses, no stipend. Stipends mean a lot of things to a lot of people. I flew my wife down to Dallas one time when I was living in St. Louis off a stipend. I ate peanut butter and jelly, but I got my stipend.
I agree. I don't like stipend. And I think that we just stick with the program as it is right now going forward. There is always the option, as the city grows and the council needs to have some type of compensation, then that can be taken care of at a later date. But right now, I think we just need to go with what works.
I echo Jody. I think the city of Heath offers more clarity.
I don't have a real strong opinion on language. I was actually looking at Roy City as well, thinking that they wouldn't be compensated, because I do agree that it's a volunteer position, but the Roy City language
I guess, opens the door now for changes in the future. But if we want to wait and open that door in the future, I don't have a strong opinion on that. I agree with the expense language, though. Expenses.
Well, again, this is the work session.
Yeah.
So there's no wrong answer here. At this point, we are going to vote officially, but we are trying to look at the direction. So again, unofficial type vote, just raising the hands of where we're going to go. There's no wrong answer. So I'm going to go 2 different languages, Heath and Rustic. And this is just knowing where we're going for right now. Those in favor of Heath, raise your hand. Okay. And then those who aren't Rustic. So again, I think we go Heath. It's easy, clear cut, easy win. Moving forward. Right? That's how I want the rest of this meeting hopefully to go. But so 1 down. All right, and I'll put in my notes here that we're going to do Heath. And any questions on the language? Do we need to reread that? I know it was read once. All right. So next, strategically, what I'm trying to do is, I know that we're going to, the big one will come after this will be composition, but I want to go into qualifications. So next discussion, and Leslie, I'm leaving it with you since you have the microphone in hand. Do you have any opinions on qualifications such as age and residency? Typically, most say residency will be 12 months, and most things that I've seen around, and that's kind of...
I think most of them were pretty similar. I will say I like the bulleted list versus slamming it all in a paragraph, but that's totally just as we get into it. But
which one do you want?
I read a bunch of different things, and I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to find the right one right this second. But
Do you want me to come back to you?
Well, what I was going to say is I definitely like 21 as the age requirement, and
Okay.
at least 12 months of residency. I think some of them also say you have to be a registered voter, and some of them say a registered voter in the municipality. And I think I like the registered voter in the municipality.
Okay, I agree with that.
So, and similarly, I think some of the qualifications were around, I mean, we like the residents, but I think also putting in the note that you can't claim a homestead exemption somewhere else, because some people will have 2 homes. This is actually their second home, but they want to be, I'd rather.
You want the homestead
I want the
exemption?
homestead exemption. You don't have to have a homestead exemption, obviously, but you can't have one somewhere else, outside of it.
Okay, so you want that included?
I like that language.
Okay. All right, so as we go around the room, thoughts on the homestead exemption as well?
I like everything she just said.
Okay, very good. Troy?
I'd like everything she just said.
All right. Leslie, it looks like, well, hold on.
I like everything she just said.
All right, Marta, are you staying firm, or are you going to change course?
I'm staying firm with what I wrote. I wrote up what I thought it should be. I had 8 items there, but I would add the homestead exemption to that.
All right. Oh, sorry, that's my fault. Sorry, James. You're good.
I like the homestead exemption. I definitely think that needs to be an add. I'm a little more flexible on the 12 months of residency, but a minimum of 6. I wouldn't go any shorter than that.
I agree with the homestead exemption, and I would go with the 12 months.
I'm in agreement.
Ditto, Leslie.
The only thing that, I mean, I don't know, I don't know if we can add this or not. I know we're kind of unique right now because of how we're served our water. And so there was a time back in the day when you had council members also serving as water board members for RCH. I think that created a conflict of interest. So since we do have a utility that has a board, have more than one, if maybe something could be in there about not serving on both boards.
So state law does already require that.
Okay.
But, I mean, we can, mean, I don't mind, we could probably put a provision in that language.
Well, but if it says,
Where I think we put that might be, would be probably on duties.
well, is that under the Texas election code? Is that what you're talking
Yeah.
about? Okay, so that's, in Royce City, they already have that in there.
You're not just serving duly elected positions.
Okay, okay.
I think I understand what you're saying, but it was kind of clear to me, but
Okay.
again, I think we're,
Well, I think if Royce City already says that, that's first thing in Royce City that says, talked about, it says you have to comply with the Texas election code.
so, those are all good points. So if we want, we can, again, does anyone else want to include that in here? I see if we do it. All right.
Yeah, and a lot of it's included somewhere else, and I think it's
Yeah.
of interest and then type of thing.
Yeah, what we talked about last time.
All right. So what I would want, yes, and so I'm trying to figure out where we put it in. Following state law, shall abide by all state laws and any conflict. I'll look for it here, or try to bring it up. What I'm gonna do is add it and bring it back up as we're looking here, because I do want to talk on qualifications. My only concern, and I understand 21. I have a different approach on that. I believe it should be 18. And my belief is you have a right to vote, and I believe that no. So I'm going to tell you, my stance is 18. I understand the concern. I understand why we do 21. But as I always say, we're not electing them to drink. We're electing them to vote. And if their voting right's 18, they have a right to serve. And I feel if you have a right to vote on a ballot, you have a right to serve on a ballot. So my stance is I believe that you have a right to run. It is your job as an informed voter to be an informed voter and know who you're voting for and know what you want. I don't think it's fair to impede on those voters of 18 age and say you're not good enough. I'm going to tell you that's my stance. So if you're good with that, would be my only change that I would ask, but it's based on the voting age. So I don't know if we have any thoughts on that, but that would be my only request. That's my point. Exactly. That's exactly my point. I know. But I know in Rowlett, many moons ago, 18-1. And so that's just to my point. I feel like if you have the right to serve your country, you have a right to serve your city.
I disagree, I'm sorry.
Okay. I'm good with that. You want to talk about that?
You're old enough to die for your country at 18, but you're not old enough to drink in all 50 states. So I don't think you should be old enough to serve. I mean, 18-year-old kids nowadays, I can't see it. I mean, it should be at least 21. I mean, that's my opinion.
This will be the one
I mean, as a guy who went in the military at the age of 17 and a half, I agree with you. I think that, at the age of 18, if you're willing to do that and you're willing to take on the responsibility, and you still have to be elected by the people. So, I mean, that's the thing. If we can say that they can at least put their name on the ballot at the age of 18, whether they win the votes of the people, that will be up to them, and that'll show their maturity. But we at least are going to give them a chance. And I agree with giving them the chance.
I don't know that I feel super strongly. I can see both sides to this, to be quite honest. I think unfortunately, I'm biased with some of the professional immaturity we've seen from people that are significantly older than 18 that have been on past councils. Present council excluded from that. So there's a little bit of a bias there. One of the things that I've thought about, and I don't know how the team feels about it, I would like to have a qualifier that they've served on one of our committees, that they've been on P&Z, or they've been on Board of Adjustments, or they've been on something. But I was just going to say, and that's not the intent, but, you know, to try to get people, and that would have supported people at 18 getting more actively involved, but the goal here is not to limit the scope, but just trying to put options out there for them, so.
I'm good with 21, and the reason being is I've seen, you know, I don't know. I know that there's mature 18-year-olds, but and there's immature 21-year-olds, but there's a reason why 21 has been set at the age for a lot of things that we should do. So that's my opinion.
If I could make one more point, the brain doesn't even stop developing fully until you're 25. So the brain, you know, your brain doesn't stop developing until you're 25. Only at 25 does the brain plasticity actually go down. So I can sympathize with this. People, my dad volunteered for Korea at 17 and a half. I can appreciate that, but you can't even drink until you're 21 in a lot of states. So I'm not sure, and giving the people the right to vote, a lot of people don't even do 5 minutes of research. I just spent 40 years in California, and some of these, I don't know how some of these people got elected. So I'm not, I really don't want to just put my trust in just the people. If we could make a little provision to make it a little bit more safer, to have somebody a little bit more mature, I would be for that, but I can vote either way. I'm not hardcore. I just wanted to point it out.
Anyone else on this end?
I agree with 21, but I also like serving on city or county boards, having some city experience first as well.
I was a 21 advocate when I walked in here. I could probably go either way now. I've seen some seats that ran unopposed that I wish an 18-year-old was running against them. And I'm just saying, and I'm just saying that if it's an 18-year-old that 51% of the people vote for, that's a special 18-year-old. That's all I can say there. So, I can go either way.
I'm still in favor of the 21. I think in today's society, it's a rare 18-year-old that probably has enough interest in the politics of the city to be qualified for a vote or to be in that position. So I'm still in favor of 21. I think it's a more mature attitude and a more mature age. An 18-year-old is just out of high school, maybe starting into college if they go to college. So how involved are they in the city up to that point? So yes, there might be a rare occasion where an 18-year-old is probably a little more mature, a little more informed. But on the other hand, you'll also get the 18-year-old so we'll say, hey, let me get a shot at that, and doesn't know a darn thing about what he's doing.
I stand behind the 18 just because if you can die for our country, you should be able to serve in any role you want to in the city. But also on Jody, what she brought up about the serving on the board, I think that is beautiful, and it would probably ensure people who are active in the community, with the caveat for me that we have had times where seats go unopposed, and to put that on there would limit our pool. So I don't think that we are in a place right now, but I think 10 years from now, I think that's absolutely something that we should consider to reassess.
So I started this, but I will say you all, I am now of the opinion that the age should be 18, as long as it's an elected position, which obviously is what we're talking about.
That's what we're talking about.
I would certainly put an older age restriction on something that was appointed, if you will. But I don't know, when we get into the discussion of, and maybe it's in the requirements, but I think what somebody just brought up about an 18-year-old maybe going off to college. And I don't think we can put in there 18 as long as you're not going off to school, but I think when we get into some discussions, if we land on 18, it's going to be important, like, that you attend so many meetings or you get removed, so that somebody doesn't go down to College Station and not show up, type of thing. So, but that would now be my new concern about an 18-year-old.
Okay. Well, but that would be no different than a 21-year-old either, or if they're going to law school or anything else. The other issue I want to bring up, and I want to bring up, and I appreciate the thoughtfulness that, Jody, you bring up, but I want to also, sometimes a council, if they start appointing, now what you're doing is you're allowing your council to select your leadership. And I don't want selection to appointed positions to be your leadership, which then becomes a dictatorship. I know what you're talking about, but it can be misused in the wrong hands. And I don't know if you ever had it happen, but I'm going to say it this way. Someone that's right here, right now, was told that they would never serve in a position on P&Z, and I would never have the chance. So understand that the only way that some of us can ever win is by running for office. So you would have eliminated an opportunity for some people. So I understand the intent, I understand the knowledge, but the job to be informed is the job of the leader to know what they're informed and what they're running for. And we see that at every level, state level, federal level. They don't know what they're running for. They want the title, and they don't even know what their job is. And that's their job to do that. And it's our job to be informed of who we're going to select. It's our job as an informed voter. So I think it sounds like it's split, so we'll again do what we did. Those in favor of 21, raise your hand. All right. Those in favor of 18, raise your hand. All right. So it looks like to me that I don't think it works that way. So seeing what I see is 18 at this time.
Is there any way to put it as 21, but if an 18-year-old wanted to, that they could
I think
get a variance or something?
I think you're opening a can of worms. I think it's
But with her homestead edition, they're saying that they live here.
somewhere
You don't have a
else.
homestead somewhere else. So you don't have to have a homestead.
But you just can't have homestead in
have
two
to own
places.
the house.
So in other words, you're
Live with mom
existing.
and dad.
Right.
Still live with mom and dad.
Here's the other thing I would bring up on the 21. The 21 thing about drinking, if you come to a council meeting drunk, you could be removed from office. So that argument about being right to drink, you're not going to be able to drink here anyways. I think that removes the point. Again, we're talking about the leadership of the council, and we're talking about if they have a right to vote. Again, they have to be elected. It's the process.
We said it's not appointed, it has to be elected. I love the distinction of elected versus appointed. They're running on their platform, they're passionate. We're talking about people who don't want to be in some of these roles, and you've got somebody that's saying, sign me up, I can't wait, here's all my ideas and my energy and all these things that I want to do for this city. And they have to sell themselves to the voters, right?
Right.
So
So I
And
just
there's no compensation involved, so they may get pizza for it.
well, and I'll remind you of, and I don't know, has everyone ever here seen Parks and Rec? Yes. Remember, Ben Wyatt got removed from office and recalled when he was a mayor at 18 years in Minnesota, remember? So again, he got recalled because of his lifestyle. All I'm saying is there are remedies with recall and there are other issues that we're looking at that could remedy this. So,
To that point, I have something else to add if we're moving off of the age.
no, go ahead.
So in Sunnyvale, in section 4.02, that's page 10, if you're looking at Sunnyvale, 4.02, section C, says, notwithstanding the foregoing, an officer removed by a recall election shall not be a candidate in any election called to fill the vacancy created by said officer's removal.
I have no problem with
Okay.
that. Any issues on that? Okay. And then the other one said in Sunnyvale, do you want to include the no candidate may file a single election for more than one office?
Yes.
To make sure that that's clear. And Tony, Number 5 on the Sunnyvale, since we're talking 402, satisfy any other eligibility requirements prescribed by law for the office of the sheriff candidate. Would that be satisfactory to you on your issue that you brought up? What do you think, James?
So with C there, are we able to caveat that, or would we even want to, that if someone was recalled, that they would be unable to run again? Or is that right? But that's what I'm saying. If they've been recalled, does that permanently pull them from the candidate pool, or do we want to leave it?
Not from what I've seen in these. It's usually they can run again in the next election.
Right, and that's what I'm asking is, do we want to make it that if you've been recalled, then don't even bother running again? Or do we leave it open and let the voters decide if they want to give them a second opportunity?
I think it would depend on what they were recalled for. If there was something egregious, then no, but if it's not, if it's kind of some minor infraction.
Or if you're talking about like criminal.
Yeah, it could be
Because I
criminal
think that's
or.
the case, state law.
All right. So what I'm going to tell you is, let's hold off on that. That's recall. We're getting off topic, and I want to make sure we get out at 9. We are talking about recall. Let's talk about it in recall. All right? I just want to make sure we're staying focused. Good points.
One of the things in Sunnyvale here, you know, they stated we'd be 21 years of age or older on the first day of the term. So they could be running at the age of 20.
So filing,
They could file and run under the age of 21. They'd have to be 21 by the time they reach the term.
I agree with that.
Term. And one other point that, you know, we talk about.
Wait, no, still want 18. I love the idea. Man, you're just counting
Still one more point. We talk about an 18-year-old choosing to serve in the military. Well, he goes in the military, he doesn't know a darn thing at all about military. He's going to be taught. An 18-year-old running for a city position doesn't know a darn thing about city position, and yet you're going to put him in there making decisions for the city that he has no clue about. That's my only concern about 18 versus.
Here's what we're going to do.
Position versus
I want Jen to have a comment, too.
In response to that, we've had city council before who has not known anything and not known how to serve and had to learn along the way and may or may not have been given good advice on how to serve. So I don't think that the age, I don't think 2 or 3 years is such that it's going to make or break a situation where we've had council members in the past who have not known what they're doing or making very big mistakes along the way.
All right. Here's what I'm going to do. Right now, we have a 5-4 on 18. You are going to have an opportunity when we come to officially vote through the language. You will have, again, a second opportunity. I want you to think about this and make this an issue and think about it. We're not here to break the bank. I want to keep us moving, but I think that just know that right now we have 18, and we will give you another opportunity because there are other members that aren't here. They will have an opportunity. It could change. All I'm saying is we're just templating it, and we will have a chance to review it. So at this point, 18 will be included with the residency, qualified voter, and homestead exemption. Am I missing anything? And then also section C, the officer removed by recall, and then also no candidate might crossing election from more one office. All right? And satisfy any other eligibility requirements. So basically, we're using Sunnyvale, essentially. All right? With the addition of homestead exemption. All right. We're good? At age 18 at this time. At this time.
I do have a question.
Yes.
Homestead exemption, why is that? Because you can get it the same year you buy the house now.
It-
It's not, you don't have to be here long to get it. The year you move, the year you buy it, it's the year you can get it.
It's the,
Having in
And
another
having
city.
the residence.
Well,
Yeah.
no, in another city. So
Yeah.
if you had a house here, you had a house in Lawn or something, but you had a homestead in Lawn.
you can't dual citizen. Yeah. In that sense. All right. All right. This is where we're going to go to the battle point. Here we go, guys. composition. This is all, so, Tony, who's got the other mic? All right, I guess you're going to start off. No, we're going to start with you because you got the mic. All right, so this is one. There is no standard level, and what we're having is composition. The language can be, how many members do you want? Do you want the mayor to vote? Do you want the mayor not to vote? This is the tricky one. So again, how do you want this council in the future to look? And once we decide that, then that will then lead us into the terms. But I think the next part is composition. Do we want more? I guess we'll start off. Leslie, anything you want to add to it? But is 5 good, or do we need more, or at this time?
I like the idea of an even number of council members and the mayor.
7 total?
The mayor can vote. I don't care whether if there's a tie or not, but I like the mayor being an odd, making it an odd.
Being the tiebreaker. And if it doesn't, and if there, for some reason it's not, it has to pass with the majority. So in other words,
Right.
if it's tied, it dies.
Yeah, I feel the mayor is elected and one of, I'm not going to say the most important because everyone on council is important, but I think the mayor being able to vote and voice his opinion is important.
I think so too.
His or her opinion.
All right.
Did you say 7 total?
Yeah, 6, she's saying 6 council. Okay. All right.
I like 6 council.
Okay.
Me too.
Okay.
In the draft I wrote, I put 7, so I do agree.
Okay. James?
I'm also on board with the 7-member council.
Okay.
Yes, 7, and the mayor can't vote.
So as we're talking, I don't mean to interrupt Dennis, but Jared's trying to figure out where he's going to fit the 6th person. All right, go ahead, Dennis.
7 total,
Okay.
with a voting mayor.
It's 5 currently with the mayor, but no vote.
But if the mayor can vote as a tiebreaker.
Right. So that's the other issue that we can, again, we'll talk about, if you want to bring that up, but.
I love all of that. Totally in agreement. One of my biggest frustrations with the council that we have had in past is I feel like we've had a very apathetic mayor at times because oftentimes not even showing up, their vote doesn't, they're not gonna, they know that they're not voting or something, or that unless it's a tie, they're gonna be needed. And I think we've perpetuated that feeling of apathy from some of our past mayors. But here, they are a voting council member. They are expected to be here. They are expected to participate and not just kind of sit on high and oversee. So I'm very much in agreement with the counting the mayor.
Same with me. I agree with everybody else on this.
Okay. So this went a lot better than I thought. I thought there was going to be a fight. So I'm proud. So small. And that would hurt someone's feeling. So Troy brought up whether voting only in a tie. I get it. And I'm going to allow you to talk on that again. For me, on this issue, I'm good with the 6. That's where I originally went. And then Jerry brought up, and said, where am I going to fit them? I said, well, that's not my problem. Put it in the budget. The issue that I feel when we have, and we've had I've heard in the past, elected mayors in places say, I don't have a vote, but they put the idea on the agenda. And then when it fails or passes, they take the counter. I feel like if you're willing to put it on the agenda, you need an answer to it. And I understand the tie vote, but if you're allowed to take the mic and control it, then you have a vote and be on the record. And I'm for the record. And I understand, and then I think that simply, if it does, for some reason, if your council isn't showing up, and the other part to this, there shouldn't be a tie with 7, it will be that tiebreaker. But this is why it's important of us having an attendance requirement in our, so that way, if you don't show up, we're getting people who are showing up. And if you're getting those ties, and why aren't you getting those majorities? Because council member X isn't showing up. It puts the onus back on the responsibility of the attendance and shows more importance to that. So I get it, but I'm willing to, I get it. And Troy, you're bringing up great points. And I'm thankful that you're, I'm glad. So do you want to expound any more on that?
No. I guess it just depends on the number of council people you have at the time it is necessary. If you want to go ahead and just have an even number across the board, then the mayor should vote.
Yeah, I think at this point, they would be the 6 plus the mayor, which would be the tiebreaker, essentially. In almost all cases, it would be 4-3.
That still keeps the mayor involved. He has to attend, he has to know what's going on, and he has to be willing to make that vote if it's necessary. But again, it puts the onus of the decisions on your council members, not your mayor.
But if your mayor's going to put agenda item, make sure he's got the, here, take this for a second. I guess my point there is if the council member is, or if the mayor is putting things on the agenda item, they have to be able to answer to it. And it's a little tough to put an agenda item and they're saying, we need to do this, and then they don't vote. To me, it puts some onus and responsibility on the mayor too. And I think, I don't think our current mayor will misuse that. I don't. But I think I feel this empowers him as well. I think it gives the whole council more importance of why attendance is important at that point.
Well, speaking of attendance, what do you do if you have a council member who is consistently absent?
We can put that in the rules, that they must attend and the percentage. And there's an attendance rule that we can include in that. And I think we do that. Yes, and I'm saying we have to have them, they have to attend at least 30, or they cannot miss more than 30% of the meetings, is what I think is typical language. And I'll review that and put that in, make sure that.
I think they can't miss more than 3 meetings in a row.
And so I'll include that as well on the attendance.
Okay, thank you. 30.
Yep.
I understand what you're saying. My concern is, sometimes I feel like as a resident, as a voting resident, I'm not exactly sure what the mayor thinks, or not our current mayor, but in the past, what they think. They may put it on the agenda to appease someone, but if they're actually held to account by having to vote, I know exactly what you think, and that'll come into, then we can recall, then we can not vote them in again, et cetera, because I will know exactly where they stand on their issue.
I think it holds accountability.
Holds accountability.
And I think that's important. And it has nothing to do with anyone currently on council. It has nothing to do with it. I just think that's good government. Hold on. They put that in recording.
I said I feel really bad for our current council and the councils to come because so much for myself personally, my feelings towards this are born out of not so positive councils that have been serving the city when I moved here. And so lots of bias, lots of preferences, because, sometimes we learn what we want to do from receiving what we don't want, right? So that's definitely influencing it a lot. Anyway.
Well, so I also have a question about, let's say the mayor's not here, and then we go towards Mayor Pro Tem is now running it as, acting mayor in the position of the MPT. So do they get a vote still, or as the acting mayor, do they not get a vote? Because then we're back to a 5-1. If they go, right. But I was saying that if the way that, we've talked about in some of the others, or at least that we've read about, the mayor doesn't have a vote except in a tie, right, then, there's that. So that's why I'm wondering, in that scenario, would also the mayor pro tem, if the mayor is absent, not have a vote except in a tie.
And I was going to put in language, the mayor pro tem still has a vote.
Okay.
Yeah. And,
Right.
and I actually wrote that in my paperwork, that mayor and mayor pro tem, mayor has a vote, mayor votes.
Okay. That's why I was saying for the 7 altogether that the mayor, and I like the mayor being able to vote because they are elected as a representative.
So what I suggest with language, if you look at Wolfworth, section 304, page 3, has mayor and mayor pro tem. The mayor shall preside at the meetings, and they may participate in discussion, and then their language says shall vote only in the case of a tie. But it says at the council's meeting, the mayor pro tem. Basically, I was going to say that basically we both would have a right to vote.
What section again?
Section 3.4, page 3. Wolfworth.
So mine might be more of a question, but because I want the mayor to vote, no question. But if do we need to put language in here, or what happens if a council member is absent for a legitimate reason and there is a tie with the mayor voting?
Yeah.
Like so is that going to be somewhere like how they handle a tie, or what maybe there's Texas law? Like what happens? Is that what it's just okay? That's more my question.
Why I was saying the language, if we allowed to vote, is if it doesn't have a majority, it dies due to lack of majority. It dies on a tie.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's
It
perfect.
has to
I
have
just
that
wanted to
plus
know
one.
for my own knowledge. I
So
still adamant.
And
I
to me,
think-
that's fair.
Yeah.
Just like tonight, what we're doing, if we're pushing the majority, and then, I mean, that's the way we're operating. Yes.
So you want section 3.4?
Well, I was just having you look at that because.
The mayor doesn't vote.
No, that's what I said, but I was just using some of the language there. But I think at this point, I think I can come up with more concise language. It was just the mayor pro tem, and I think that both should have a vote. And I think we include that in the language. So.
If I may, if you look under the city of Royce City,
Yeah.
under 3.01 through 3.04,
I was thinking of a Wolfworth came up.
yeah. But they talk about the mayor having the
It was
power
Royce
to vote.
City, and for some reason, I
Okay.
saw Wolfworth, and I thought that was the one. That's my fault. Okay.
Which section are we looking? 304.
It's Article 3 on 3 starts off at 3.01 when it talks about the composition, but then it goes into like the mayor in 3.04.
I agree. I like that language.
Yes. All right.
Good name. Good thinking.
All right. All right, so we'll adopt that language. Any objection? I think we moved, we basically. Hey, all right. So y'all made me proud on that. So, okay. So we are agreeing. Oh, Troy. Oh, he's done. All right, very good. All right. So, we got someone else? Did I miss someone, James? Or you want? Here you go.
So within that language, are we sticking with the quantity of terms and the length of that, or are we
Term-
wanting to, are we
terms is
discussing?
next.
Okay.
Yep. Now, I've got it broken down. So, we are now going to terms. This is the one that I think can be really creative. And again, I'm going to welcome. So here we go. Terms. James, you're up.
I think we should probably extend the length of the terms to 3-year terms, and then do a term limit of 3 years, combination of council or mayor.
3 years in length, 3 total.
3 total terms.
All right, go ahead, guys.
So I was, Jim, what do you got?
3 and 3.
3 terms.
All right.
So 3-year limit, I can vote for that. I just, 3 times. I'm not sure I gotta think about it.
Okay. Dennis?
I agree with the 3-year terms, just because, you know, you're getting to a point where you're just starting to get a stride, things are starting to work, and then it's election season.
Okay.
And then you're breaking up the actual work that's being done. Are we just doing terms, we're not doing term limit? Or,
I think you can bring it up, and I'm willing to just bring it up now.
okay,
And we'll just still discuss. I think we're good. Bring it up.
okay.
What do you think
I would say for a total of 9 years, so
9
that's
years.
three terms.
All right.
I definitely agree with each term being 3 years. I agree with how Dennis said that. You get momentum, you've got it, you made these commitments. There's an element of getting to see it come through to fruition. I'm not sure about number of terms, 9 years in office. Are we saying that consecutively or consecutively? I'm going to think about that one a little bit.
That's good. And the other thing that we have to think about, and since we're talking around the table, does that include the mayor and both total combined? So do you want 9 years for both? Okay. So, or 9 years just for the position? So, Tony? So like somebody was a council member and got put into... No more than 9 years total. Got it.
I agree with the 3 years and 3-year term, or the 3 terms, 3 years. And I also know that, talking to Jerry and Paul, that they want it to be retroactive to this council too. So.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to go ahead and, Melody, you're up next. Leslie.
I am thinking.
Okay, so
I didn't
you wanna go
expect to
Melody?
hear Melody. I wasn't ready.
And then hand it back.
So we're at the terms, right? So I could be swayed to the 3, but I was more set in the 2-year terms. Some of these had language where you don't serve for more than a certain number of consecutive terms as council member and mayor combined. So I am in agreement with that, depending on, you know, what it is. 9 years could be certainly considered. And it does say that you can, another one said that you could serve the maximum number and then have a year break, and then come back and be elected again. So that's something that we can consider. I'm not necessarily in agreement with that, but it's something that was written in, where you could take a break after you've met the limit and then come back again. So if you're...
Like 1 year.
Yeah, 1 year.
Which is what Schwab does.
I would put this term for a break.
Okay.
Instead of 1 year.
One term.
Term for a break, like a 2 or 3 year term.
It'd be a 3-year break.
That's a good idea. Okay, that's my say.
You're supposed to give it.
Oh, back to you.
Yeah.
You're right, I'm so
All
sorry.
right, Leslie.
No, I'll go. That's fine. I'm in agreement on the 3 years.
All right.
Kind of like Melody, I walked in thinking 2, but I can get behind the 3. I'm a little concerned about 9 years.
Too much or too little?
Too much. No, definitely too little. I was thinking 6 years and then a break, and I like the break of a full term. The one thing I saw in one of these, and I don't know, I apologize, I don't know right offhand. If we were to go to 2 terms, one thing I might consider that I know I saw in one of these was if you went from council to mayor, then it could be 3 terms. Like, so then you could be up to 9 in the 2 seats, but you can only hold 1 council seat for 6 years. I could probably be swayed on this. I'm not going to die on the 6-year hill, especially because I know we're going to put in recall language, but that's where my head's at.
I was wanting to initially also, but as long as we have the recall built on
Okay, well, looks like that's going to be your big, okay. Troy?
I'm in agreement with 3 and 3. I think it gives the council or the mayor the opportunity to get his program, get it going. And he can always be non-elected too. If he's not doing a good job, first term he's gone, second term he's gone, or the third term he's gone. So, but I like the idea of 3 and 3.
I do as well. 3 and 3 is what I was thinking.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to argue, but I'm going to bring up one counterpoint on, and I was actually going to go higher to 12. And I can explain that why, and I will explain why I say that. right now in the city of Rockwall, you have a mayor, and what happens is you have people who serve one term, and they only get one term of that council because of the way it works. So I feel like if you do 12 years in combination, it doesn't completely stop that, but it gives them 2 terms as council and 2 terms as mayor. And that doesn't mean that's going to happen. It can still happen but I think that we say no more than 12 terms in the combination of mayor and council. Four terms total, no mix. And that was the idea, was if I do it that more, that gives, the idea was that you could at least somewhat, could it still be misused? Yes. Yes, it could be. All right? But I feel like when I look at the mayor's situation, and what they do is 3 terms, but no more than 8 in combination, I was just looking at serving more than just 1 term as mayor, because you could easily do that. That was my concern. Dennis?
Then for the 3 and 3, that would be just for council, right? So then we could add an extra term if that's going to be, for mayor.
No more than 3 terms in one position,
Right.
but 12 years max in a combination.
That's, yes,
Would that be fair?
that would be fair. Because again, they have to be elected and re-elected,
Right.
right? So,
That's all I'm saying.
but, because I was thinking about it as you were saying it, because it does make sense. If you have someone who's doing a really good bang-up job,
Right.
right, and the people want to keep him or her, then do it. Let them have that opportunity instead of, okay, you're in, you're doing it, now you're out, and somebody else takes over, and we have to wait a term in order for that person to try to get back in, or, whatever can be done. And 3 years can be a long time.
All right.
I'm just thinking.
So if you go to 4, what would be the number of years of term?
Right, basically that no more than 12 years combination between the 2 positions, but consecutive. But it has to be the combination of mayor and council, right? Yes. But no more than 9 years on council. Then I think that's the compromise.
And would that include, like, I want to be council place 1 for 6 years, and then I'm going to be council place 2.
So I think that it's no more, what my language proposed would be no more than 3 years on council, period. You cannot serve in 3 years in the position of council. But combination of mayor, council, 12. Because what I can see is you did your time, and then you decided you're ready to move, and you took the time. Because what happens if you're like, oh, if I don't do it right now, I got to run for mayor. And so then it's like, you might have someone who might not be prepared for mayor yet. And I'm not saying, again, you can run without it. What's that? So that's never happened before. No, I understand. I mean, I'm trying to think it through. Are we all good with that at this point? Sounds like we're all in consensus. Anyone object? Because the next part on that term, how do you want that to go? So this is where we would work. So I'm going to go ahead and lead on this one to start with the first year cycle would be council 1, 3, and 5. Second year would be 2, 4, and 6. And then the third year will be the mayor alone with a resign to run that you have to give up your seat to run for mayor, so we don't have fighting on the dais, in my opinion. And then instead of selecting, you run for that open council seat. So you're creating a special election, you're creating that run, so it wouldn't be running solo if someone did that. It would close. So on that third year would be the mayor's, year 3 would be the mayor.
So we're having a municipal election every year.
You're doing it now. So that's, my issue is you're doing it every year. But it gets rid of appointment, it reduces the amount of appointments and creates that, what I feel, here's my reasoning to that. I feel that when you run, you put your life on the line and your integrity on the line, right? The rule that we then would put is that if you lose, you can't make a rule that you can't be appointed we could put a rule in that you can't be appointed if you lost the first previous election, which is in some charters. But it would be an insult that the council guy runs and then all of a sudden the mayor appoints. So like for an example, let's say there's a contest from council seat. The mayor gets to appoint who they wanted and that other person that was running for council lost or something else, and they're getting who they want. You're allowing them, not the will of the voter, to be basically impeded upon. I want to make it more cleaner and make sure that the citizens in most cases always have a vote. And that's why I came up with that. That's why I'm proposing it. I'm not hurt if we go a different direction, but mine is trying to not allow appointments because I've heard in the past, well, you're appointed, not selected. I'm trying to remove that at I want to make sure that everyone has a voice in the selection of their officers at every point, except for the vacancy fillings, and they'd still at the next election would have to be voted in.
So explain again how, one of the people that got elected to city council in the last year's election,
Okay.
he can resign that city council seat and run for mayor? I mean, I think he can. And so...
You can, but then his seat would be up for election during that mayor race.
Okay, so it's all got to be timed such that
Yes.
because I'm saying, what if somebody puts their paperwork in for mayor last minute?
They have to resign. They have to resign to run.
Last minute?
They can still do it on the election, but that gives us time to put it on the ballot.
There's a cutoff period. And, okay, there's a cutoff period for mayor. For any of them. For any of them.
Mhm.
Yeah, so you have to have your paperwork turned in. There's a deadline for when all that stuff is due. That way the ballots can be put together.
Yeah, I'm saying that mayor does it right at the cutoff. No one else knew that he was going to run, that he was going to relinquish his seat.
Okay.
And so the clock strikes 5, he gets his paperwork in. What about that seat that he just relinquished?
I think I understand your question. You're saying now nobody knew that council place
Right.
5 was.
That's my thought.
So then the deadline, now we're at the deadline.
Right, but
So there's nobody that signed up to run for council.
But if I'm not, so I can ask that question to make sure it's clear, because again, we're still gonna go through, the attorney, and we can get the attorney on it. But what would happen is it would extend it maybe 7 days or open that up.
Yeah.
And that would open it up.
I guess
and
that's
put on
my
that
point. We
special
would
election.
need to have that, or else he's going
Yeah.
to win.
And we can get that language approved through the attorney on it. If people agree on it. And if you're not concerned, this is just my way of thinking of a way to stop. It wouldn't stop it completely, but I think it's a fair process.
So I have a question kind of.
I'm trying to find a way to stop that too.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to get at. I want everyone to be honest. And that was my intent. And maybe I'm overthinking it.
So what do we do in a situation where it's a year where, say, council places 2, 4, and 6, we're going to be on the ballot? But in that year, somebody passed away, or for some reason, council place 1 became open, which I believe in that case, we do appoint someone to fill that seat. Do they fill it until the end of ones, or can we add that to the?
Still the next election.
It's still the next election.
But the next election for position 1.
Right.
So we would.
So for example,
Good job.
so when we had Jerry Klutz, he passed away. It still went technically as a special election back in those days. So that's why I'm bringing it up. Even though it didn't pass away during that time, it still was considered a special election.
So I think my concern, and maybe we'll address this somewhere else, but if I was just elected to place 1, and then something happens, we move out of McLendon-Chisholm, whatever, it's 3 years that someone's appointed to that position.
No,
And
I think the language would be the next,
Whatever.
so the language that I would suggest is that we go to the next city election.
So then you would put place 1 up with places 2, 4, and 6.
You could, potentially.
I would, personally, I feel better about that. That's what I'm just trying to get my head around, how that could work.
Correct. Right.
Okay.
They would fulfill the remaining 2 terms.
Okay. So my concern, I like all of that. It makes a lot of sense. My only concern of having the mayor run alone is collectively, we already know that we have high apathy with registered voters. And there's a lot of momentum that I think you get when you have mayors running with council members and you have multiple candidates that are out canvassing, and there's a lot of energy that goes with that. I think you get a lot more awareness versus, you know, whoever's running for mayor, whether we have 2 candidates, 10 candidates. I worry about getting enough energy behind that campaign. So that would be my only question of having a single position running.
All right. So on this issue, how would we feel about getting the attorney's opinion on this? And then we review that, just that piece, next meeting, just to review, to get what his opinion would be with best practice. And we, because we got everything else pretty much figured out. So I think that way we're not, and then we can make a decision on that, or how we want that to look. I think we got everything else pretty much figured out.
I have one question for you.
Yes.
What is our current deadline on resigning and running for a different position?
Right now, there's no resign or run currently in the city.
So if I were in place 1 and coming up to the next election, I decided within, 30 days, 60 days, that I want to resign my number 1 spot because I want to run for mayor. What is that deadline currently?
There's not. Currently, you still serve.
But you say I have to resign the number 1 position in order to be mayor, then
If you're running
somebody
for
else-
mayor.
Then somebody else has to run for the number 1 position.
Right,
So
correct.
what is the deadline that one must resign that position so that the next person has an opportunity to
Correct.
campaign for?
So that is what I want to bring up to the attorney to see. That's what I was going to ask the attorney to clarify what that would be, what that would look like, if that was possible. That's where I was going to seek their advice.
My opinion is that it should have to be a fairly lengthy period of time in order for another individual to be able to campaign.
I don't
for that
know we
position.
can stop it, but I would say it would be at a period, what theoretically would look like would be at the period of the beginning of filing, when period they must resign at the beginning if they decide that they need to announce at the beginning of filing, that's exactly how I feel. But that's theoretically what I'm thinking.
Well, what was it? I'm trying to think back. We had 2 council members running for mayor.
Right.
They just will serve until the election.
Right.
I'm
So the other part to this, the reason why I was trying to cure this, is in Rockwall, what they're talking about, I feel like in those 2-year terms, what I was trying to alleviate too, was in those 2-year terms, one, because they were running on 4, and so what would happen was you had 4 people running for office and then 3 people on the other. Well, one person got punished and never got on council, while the other one, if they were on that same opposite cycle, they could continue to run and they could campaign from the dais, and they got a tactical advantage because they happened to be on the off cycle. And it just seemed unfair to me. It feels unfair. I'm trying to find a way to make it fair. That was the intent.
So I may have a stupid question. I'm appointed to seat 2, and I know that there's about to be a general election for 1, 3, and 5. What I would have to resign say I'm there for 2 months, a year, and now I want to run for a 3-year place, I would have to resign that position and then turn around and run for the other seat. The resignation would be effective immediately. So during that time, I'm just walking through this.
Yeah, no, you're fine. And this happened in Royce City, I believe, too.
Okay.
Because what happened was the mayor, they had a position, and then, if I remember correctly, they had to have a special election because the seat got vacated and they had to run in that special election. So it's not exact, but so what happened, the mayor got appointed to commissioner, okay? Her seat came up. That council member became the mayor, all right? But he had to run on that special election. So, and that, which was the off year, and so they had to hold that special election for that seat. And there was, I think, another person that ran.
The special election that was held did not require them to resign?
No, because the mayor had to resign to take the seat because you can't hold 2 elected positions at once. So she was no longer on council.
Sorry, I'm just...
That's kind of why I get it.
I think what we're doing is we're trying to determine what the city requires.
Yeah, again, I think we allow this to be decided by the attorney and come back and see if it doesn't work. If it doesn't work that way, then we revisit it. I don't want to confuse anyone, but I'm trying to explain where my logic was on this. Does everyone need a break? Because I got 2 more things I think that comes down to this that we'll bring into this.
Excuse me for just a sec. Can you just line out exactly what you want the attorney opinion on?
The attorney to look at if it would be legal to do resign to run and what legally a time limit, if any, can occur on when they have to announce to resign to run.
Okay.
And what period can that be? And if there was no period, special election period, does that extend the balloting period for that? Do you extend that 2 weeks, or how do you do that? How does that work? Does that make sense? Okay.
I have one more question.
Yes, absolutely.
So, I'm currently in the seat that I was appointed for. Does the time between the time I resign, say the election, I decide I'm going to run for mayor all of a sudden, and I know that election's coming 6 months or a year, which is what we just discussed about. Does that count towards the difference of the term limit, so it's not the continuation of the 9 years potentially over time? Does that make sense? I'm walking through this, I'm just thinking this.
So you're asking if an appointment would count towards your term limits. I don't think it would because you were appointed, not elected.
Got it, okay.
But I would think I would want to make the appointed positions recallable also, though.
I agree.
Yes.
That way it's not, that way the council can't just appoint.
Don't recall me, I'm great.
Don't we cover an appointment, would that not be covered under nepotism?
Nepotism covered the appointments as well, that you couldn't.
And I think you're going to see some other rules fall under recall too. So I think you're going to see some other things. The other issues that are we good on this? All right. So the other language when we stay in Royce City would be we can talk about what a quorum is, and I think the language should be 4 council members of the city shall constitute a quorum. So that language is pretty much clear cut, in my opinion. That's going to be 313, the page, but that's going to be 307 to 313 is the top numbers. Royce City. So, and then the other language I would like to also be included is conflict of interest. That language, should any member of the city council have a conflict of interest pursuant to any laws or city ordinances regulating conflicts of interest of municipal officers with an agenda, then therefore before the city council, you shall openly declare same before discussion. I think this is transparency. That's all I want. All right? Yes. Yeah, it's going to be 3-9, 3-10, and then also 3-11 abstention. Should any member of the city council choose to abstain from voting on any question where no conflict exists, the person's vote shall be recorded as a negative vote in the official minutes of the meeting. Okay? Just another rule to kind of make it a fair playing field. So if someone can't decide, even if they abstain and they don't have a conflict and they don't announce it, it counts as a negative. In other words, your vote still counts. All right? It kind of puts it out there. All right. And then finally, there was one, and I don't remember where it was. I believe it's Sunnyvale wrongful influence statute, that no councilman shall have influence on appointments. They can't use that they promise to appoint someone to a position on a board or commission. If they do that, they would be violating their, they cannot use wrongful influence. Thank you, Troy, for making me yell. 1004. Page 36. No person who seeks appointment or promotion with respect to any town position or appointed administration shall be give, render, or pay money or render service or any valuable thing in connection with his or her appointment, proposed appointment. And I mean, we can, I guess we could put that under the nepotism, underneath that. I don't mean to get off topic, but I originally was thinking it.
If you put it under nepotism, then that's only a family member, right?
No, this would be anybody. It would be a separate code, but it would be underneath nepotism. Yeah. Okay. I'm a- You want to do 10-6 employees of the block, please? Is that what you're saying?
An employee of the city can't contribute to.
Right?
No person who holds any competent, not elected town position shall make, solicit, or receive any contribution from any candidate for city council
You guys want that?
or take part in
We'll put that under there as well,
campaign
under the nepotism. Okay. All right. Any objection? I know we're a little off topic, but I think this is all in that, where I wanted to go with that. All right. So I think we're all good. We're all good? Any talk on that? Anyone? Tony? And anybody? All right. The last part. Sure.
Can we recap just kind of the?
So what we're going to include now also under nepotism too, not getting off topic, but I think I did do that, so I'm sorry, is on 10-4. We're going to include that. Sorry, 10-3, 10-3, 10-4, and 10-6. Not, you want to include 10-5 as well? Okay, 10-6. Those three. Those are the three I'm at. All right. Now, going back, and again, we will vote on those and we can review those later. And again, I'm also going to tell you, anything else you want to add next meeting, I have a subject line, so you want to add. That's the fun part, too. All right. We're at 7:53. The last part that is going to be, how do we address vacancies? And Leslie, I'm going to let you start. I will tell you that I kind of found an easy one, which was Sunnyvale's vacancy list. Seemed pretty good to me, but I'll let you start off.
Is this not just what we were just talking about?
Is it on? All right. Yes, this is our last piece of city council, and then we're going to, we'll do the recall at 8 o'clock. Looks like we're doing good. I'm proud, very proud. So that would be, what,
Vacancies in Sunnyvale starts on page 4. It's in the early section 3.06.
So are we talking about how we replace someone, or are we talking about what they're doing to forfeit their position? What's the
both,
topic?
A and B.
Okay. I mean, I think I'm okay with the language in Sunnyvale. I don't have a... As long as we're just talking right now about what causes them to forfeit, not how we appoint replacements. Where is that?
And then office subject to it would be the office subject to forfeiture. We had 3 consecutive regular meetings, or 25% of regular scheduled meetings during 12-month period, which would be 3 meetings.
So 3 in a row or 3 total?
25% during a 12-month period, immediately preceding.
That's assuming the city council only meets once a month, right? Is that
What's
what? That'd be assuming city council only meets once a month, right? And that's, don't we meet twice a month?
Yeah, I mean.
So 25% would be missing 6 meetings.
Yeah.
Oh, throughout the year though?
Correct.
3 in a row or
Correct.
6?
Would be correct.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
All right, and that addresses that timeline that we talked about earlier about attendance. Addresses that. And then D, the filling of vacancy. And I think this is where I would say shall be filled by special election with 120 days after such vacancy occurs. So if the vacant office is that of Mayor Pro Tem, the city council shall elect a new Mayor Pro Tem at the next regular meeting. So vacancies filled by special election shall be for the remainder of the term that was vacated.
So we don't do appointments at all then, in this scenario?
No. Yeah, it would actually, and I'm including the vacancy of mayor, but the appointment,
Says if it, yeah, that we only replace council members by special,
I think as long as we get it straight as far as you can't at the last minute vacate a position and run for mayor so that you can appoint the other one.
yeah.
As long as we get that fixed, I would be for the mayor appointing until the next general election.
I was looking for the appointments. Well, just so you know, vacancy in office of mayor shall be filled, but then the main qualms of the appointment shall be for the unexpired term. So I don't want to confuse anyone. It would be an appointment of the mayor. If he vacates.
Just the mayor.
Yeah. And it does go through that, filling of that vacancy. And then it also gives, if the mayor pro tem and all councils do not consent, then the council should convert every regular meeting there shall include an item for appointing a new mayor until a new mayor is appointed. So it kind of says, no, you're going to do something.
I mean, I like Royce City's vacancies.
Okay. And I'll go to Florida Civics.
That's in section 3.05.
And the other thing I'd point out to that one is the city council shall not have more than 2 appointed council members at any one time. The city council should not have more than 2 appointed council members at any one time. In the event of additional vacancies, the city shall order a special election.
Well, and with if we required the 80% vote to refill a council position, I'm doing my math, but I think you'd need 5 of 6 votes for the appointee, which I like, that you can't get.
It's a super.
Yeah.
You'll need to add on number 2, because it only has the 3 consecutive regular meetings, you need to add the up to 6 a year into that verbiage if we use that one, the 25%. That does say, where it says that they can be the mayor, shall be elected by a special election. Like number 4. I think I like Rose City with the addition of the 25%.
Yeah, and they do have a language here, 30 second meetings without explanation. But I think we do 25% as well. Okay, so, I want to make sure this melody is still going through. Did you see it? Right here and then okay. So I think we're going to adopt Royce Cities. Is that what we're all saying? Anyone, go down this way, I guess. James, do you have anything?
So we going with that, if the mayor decided to resign, that we would have to have a special election, or are we going with sending what Vale's verbiage where Mayor Pro Tem or the Mayor Pro Tem doesn't consent a council member to be appointed through the council vote?
I think that's the one that attracted me to make. I felt like that would.
Sunnyvale for that.
So we're going to go with Royce City with taking out the special election, putting the appointment in Sunnyvale. Provisions.
All right.
So the skeleton verbiage we're going to use is Royce Cities, adding the 25%, and then we're going to withdraw their special election for the mayor and plug in Sunnyvale's filling of the vacancy there.
If we do that, would the 2 appointed, no more than 2 appointed council members would include the mayor, right? So we couldn't have an appointed mayor and 2 appointed council members.
Right.
I wouldn't want more than 2 positions.
Yeah.
Because the mayor would still be an elected official because they were elected to council.
Just the way the Royce, we might just want to clarify the way the Royce City language reads in this case, because.
If you don't mind, what I'll do is, Jerry, make sure that provision was specific to what we're asking is, in the case that the mayor vacated the seat, that position of appointment in the language for our city, does that include the mayor as an appointed, or do we need to clarify with the exception of the mayor? Does that make sense?
No, we don't want to say with the exception of the mayor, we want to say including the mayor.
Or including the mayor. In other words, legally, is what I'm asking.
Yeah, okay.
So it's really for 6, the city council shall not have more than 2 appointed positions at any one time versus council members. Change that to positions.
Yeah.
Whatever legally.
Exactly.
Just make sure that's clear.
Exactly.
Sorry, I'm making you work today. I apologize.
Okay, so this is a question for the attorney that you're wanting, or I guess I'm misunderstanding?
Yeah, I'm wanting the city attorney to review the language on the provision specifically on the Royce City Charter, number 6.
Okay.
That we're including in here.
But it includes the mayor.
That includes the mayor.
Yeah. Sections, it's item 6 under 305.
So there is language in some of these that say that, when you speak of city council, that includes the mayor.
Right.
So that may cover that as well.
Correct.
Yeah.
We want to make sure that's the clarity.
And then the other thing that I wanted to add is, in some of these, it said that if there's a vacancy in the office of the mayor, the city council as well, shall be elected by special election within 120 days, in accordance with Texas Constitution and Texas Election Code. State law reference special elections to fill vacancy, general VTCA, election code, section 201.051.
And that's in the OIC language.
So
that's already included.
Okay.
That's included.
I didn't hear anybody talking about it.
Yeah, I'm sorry, because I think we accepted the whole vacancy rules, of course. All right, with the exception of the 2 changes. All right. All right. So that concludes at this point. Does anyone else want to discuss anything else on council at this point? We did not. So that now becomes the discussion.
Do we just want to throw that up as a vote, just to see where the temperature is?
So what, again, Tyler, I'll let you lead it off.
It's pretty simple. I mean, hopefully everybody's saying the same thing. We're not big enough for anything other than at large. We would just limit our pool by having special districts for where they live. That would be, when we get larger, and I'm thinking, other cities I've seen, it's not until there are 60, 70,000 people, in the city. So.
At large?
At large.
Okay. Roberta?
Same.
Okay. Well, you say that.
No.
At large.
At large.
At large.
At large.
At large, although. No, the only reason I say this, Troy and I live in a community that is not well represented by our council ever, and that is our own fault. We could run the council right if we want to.
Many moons ago you had one.
However, that is the only reason why I have a caveat. I would still say at large, but we just are not represented. That we are maybe 5%. Neighborhoods like ours are probably 5% of our population. We just aren't represented well unless we actively recruit people to come to our couch, and so we can talk to them. So I mean, we're just a different community.
I understand.
But at large.
At large.
All right. So it's 8:07 and Melody's leaving. Is there anything you want to discuss, to think about, anything else on this agenda? I want to make sure you're always included.
Thank you. No, I'm good. I'm sorry I do have to go. I have
All right.
another thing I have to do.
All right. She's leaving at 8:07. All right. So we've now decided everything. Every concern that I had at council has been remedied, and I am proud of all of you, because this is the one I lost sleep. I actually told Jerry, either we're going to blow up or we're going to be united, and I'm proud of each one of you. I think we've worked very well. So with that now, I'm going to jinx myself as we go into recall. And
Can we take a quick break?
I was going to say a Schwarzenegger movie, Total Recall. Leslie, you're going to start off.
Can we take a quick break?
Take a break. We'll adjourn at 8:15. Yes, sir. All right, I'll bring that up next meeting. Because we've already closed it. Right. All right, we're gonna go back to order, 8:15. Feel bad that, I guess Jerry decided to go want to follow directions. So, Tony, do you want to, who wants to lead us off, either side, I don't care, on recall election? I look at each one kind of,
I was going to say, everything I saw was, it all kind of gave me a headache after a while. You know, I think that Sunnyvale's, you know, was, you know, looking at size-wise, was the best. You know, Royce City, you know, is okay. Rockwall's okay. So I think any of them would work. You know, it's just a matter of defining what we want and how we, you know, the law that we want to follow.
So my only concern with Sunnyvale's and Wolford and all that, they say how the styling should be, and my question I would have is how we style it because of the county of Rockwall, but we do have one portion of Coffin. How do we do that in language? So that would be my only concern, and I think the one that best addresses it seems to be chapter 12 of the Keith one. It addresses it, that the city secretary does on as the elections administrator. So basically, she would then file it and then make sure that the appropriate as the elections administrator.
So do you want to take either one of the other cities, Royce City or Sunnyvale, and then
Add the heat.
Within the heat.
I think heat matches more what I think we're talking about, but then where I think we're going to have an issue. I think heat is cleaner for us because of Russell County, but the issue would be on theirs, it's 30%. And 30%. You're all yawning. You're on, and then listen. All right. Jody, do you have anything?
I like Heath. I think my question for Heath is they're stating that a recall cannot be done within 6 months of somebody taking office. And while I understand the realistic, you've got to allow somebody opportunity and give grace and all of those pieces, and I believe in that. Do we have to have a time limit on it? I mean, why are we limited with that? That was my concern with Heath, was just couldn't be before 6 months. It's like, and what if we know 2 months in that, you know, somebody was doing different things? That's just their limitations. It's 12.11. So that would be a thought just for the table.
I think if you look at it, I think, and again, I'm not here, so I think you're looking at the 90 days, that their sanitation not be less than 90 days from the date of the petition was submitted. I think their idea was that if you had a recall election, that recall election, it would be close to that.
No, in fact, no recall petition shall be filed against the mayor or any other council member within 6 months after he first takes office. It spells it out.
No, yes, I know. I'm talking about the reason why they got there was they were looking at the period of how they were, I think they were trying to target close to that May elections. But again, I'm trying to assume that's how they were thinking. Because if you do the first 6 months.
Yeah, I don't know. It is food for thought, right?
Yeah. Anything else on that, Jim? Dennis?
No, I mean, I think the only thing that, because they all spell it out pretty clearly, but I think that we would need to discuss the percentages. And so going through all of them, I mean, when you look at some of them, it's like Wolfirth and some of those are 10%. I'm like, okay, that's yeah, exactly. So I was thinking 30%. I saw that in a few of the others. I thought 30% was good because on average you really only get about 20-25% anyway. So you have to have an appetite for the recall. It's the same thing when you're trying to run against anybody. There has to be an appetite for them to come out of office. So that's where I would be on the recall. I think Rockwall had some language I liked. I wasn't really thrilled with all of it. Heath had language. I think it was Heath was the one that we kind of went with most of it. Is that correct?
In the past, but again.
And I know we're going to change, and we're discussing it now. But anyway, those were some of the things that I liked on both of those, Rockwall and Heath, and then the percentage of 30%.
%.
I think the purpose of having the 6 months on there is also to help protect against retaliation, of some bad blood if there's a heated run, for someone to immediately be able to take their group of supporters while the blood is still hot and everything and go after them before they have an opportunity to do anything. So I think we need to leave the 6 months in place just as that buffer to let temperatures, kind of cool and everything like that. As far as the percentage goes, I'm good with somewhere between 25 and 30%.
Rich?
I like 30% as well. I was thinking at first that it was maybe too much, and because Roy City calls out 30% of the number of votes cast in the last general city election. So that I kind of like that, but that could be. I still think, as I think about it, I think it's got to be 30% of the registered voters, because I mean it's still a pretty low bar. I didn't like Rockwall because it was 15%. I think is what they said, which I thought was pretty good. Yeah. So but yeah, I liked Roy City.
I'm fine with 30%. In reviewing, and I was looking more at Roy City and Sunnyvale, I hadn't really paid a lot of attention to Heath and their language, but I find that most of the language in any one of these pretty well runs together.
It's the same return for all four.
Yeah, so I'm fine with adopting any one of them along with the 30%.
This is one that when I read it, I was very concerned, only because I like Roy City's because it does state that the 30% of the number of votes cast at the last general city election. Because we have seen general elections that are heated and there hasn't been apathy, and we've had great voter turnout, and we've seen some that we have a couple hundred people turn out. So I think that if we consider the verbiage in the Roy City, including the number of votes cast at the last general election, that will ensure that we're honoring those voters and also given the opportunity for any others, but also I feel like if we don't, we're cutting our arm off to spite ourselves, considering that it's just so, we are a constant pendulum. We are either all in or we are all out. And cutting yourself at the 30% mark whenever it's a all out, like when we don't have good voter turnout, I just think I very much like, I'm trying to say this right. When I read it, I felt very, very strongly about it. That we should have the 30% of the number of votes cast at the last general city election, not just 30% of registered voters. Because how often do we get 30% of registered voters to come out to vote in the first place?
I am going to disagree with you, but I'm also thinking, I'm almost wondering if there's a compromise in here. Maybe 30% is too high if we're going with all registered voters. But my concern is we've had elections where people were elected by less than 100 votes, and only having to get 30 votes or 30 petitions signed is a little bit scary to think it could be a number that small. Plus, I think if if we're at the point where we're talking about a recall, there's probably some energy behind it. So I don't think it'd be as hard to get, but maybe in this city with what we've seen in voter turnout, maybe 30% is too high, maybe it's 25 or 20, but I think I would want to do all the registered voters because we have had some that have extremely low turnout, and then someone could turn around and get their 20 buddies to get a recall election. You know, I mean, I don't know. I hadn't thought about it your way before tonight either, so I'm kind of...
I think that the point is you know you have an active pool. I think her point is that the active pool that you know there's a number of active voters. So if you did 30% of that, because technically you got the majority. So if you got 30 of those people, 30% of those people would come back out and vote.
True.
Well, that's what's in Royce City, is 30% of the
Right.
votes cast in the last
General election. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. That's, so she's asking for us to do Royce City's recall in that language, and I would take out those sections. Everything would be included. Ballots, everything.
I do get your point about the number of people that it would take to bring that, but also they still have to go to election again. They have to come and vote.
And I don't think we can caveat it, but I'm also, what if we have a scenario where a council member was elected by only 200 people? But then there's another election and it's for mayor and 3,000 people vote. I'm throwing out random numbers. But now to recall someone who only was elected by 100 votes, you need 1,000 people to sign the petition because that was the last general election.
Here's the other problem. You're using that vote, but remember, you're also giving them an opportunity to do that in 6 months. You're creating a barrier if we do this 6 months.
Yeah, if you keep the 6 months and then that angst and nerve and all the things kind of can die down by that time.
But I'll say, no, we had a situation where we had the election and, okay, we had an election, the very first council meeting following the election and everybody sworn in, the existing council, the ones who were not voted on, because we had the cycle, right? So the ones that remained on the council, they all voted that they removed the mayor off of the check signing ability. They forbid him to put any agenda items on any of the council. They completely stripped every single bit of his ability to even have conversation with the citizens. That was night one. And to say that it went downhill from there is an understatement. So why would we have to wait 6 months? That's why I say I am sharing with you very, very humbly. I know I have bias. We have been abused as citizens in this city for any of us that have been over here for greater than 8 years. And we have seen the games that unfortunately people who were elected chose to take against us, the voters. So why are we going to hold ourselves hostage for months on end when we see somebody playing those games? Why would we do that to ourselves? Legitimately, yeah.
So if there's a recall, I don't know the rules on this. If there's a recall, what is the timeline for said recall? What's the process?
They're just saying 6 months or 3 months.
No.
Oh.
What's the timeline, not for how long they have to have been in office, for how long the recall actually happens? Like, what is the timeline for that?
I think so, yeah.
The wording is by Texas law.
I think so too.
And do we know what that is?
No, it has a section that you have to go to. It doesn't spell it out in any of the documents.
Heath does say that you can't, the election date shall not be less than 90 days from the date the petition was submitted. So it's kind of like a 90-day cooling down period.
If we went with Royce Cities, it's 21. But, all right, so, Royce Cities recall says no recall shall be filed against any obstinacy within 3 months. So would 3 months be your compromise on, would you want to compromise in 3 months?
6 meetings, right?
Yeah. or nor within 3 months after election. So, three officers recall.
That's 6 meetings.
I think I'm gonna concede here. I believe I'm gonna be in the minority of this table, and that's okay because I just want for those of you that haven't been in the city as long to understand where some of these emotions are being fueled from and to see the hate, the absolute vitriol and hate that elected officials took out on us as citizens. There's just no words. There's no words. And we were stuck.
I can echo that.
Thank you, Jen.
This is why I wanted to be on this.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Jody, I'm going to, I understand, but I also want to say that what we're doing in this document is we're outlining a lot more ethics, a lot more, we're reining in a lot of this behavior stuff now the way we're doing it, so it doesn't do that. And so I think we're reining all that in. And I understand, but that's where the procedure of this comes in. I hear you. And so, all right, but go ahead.
I propose a compromise right in between and say halfway, because that does give the cooling off period, and that comes into Texas code. They're only 6 meetings is what you're talking about.
Because I understand James' point too of, all of the other stuff. This isn't even about the other candidates that were running, though. These were the existing members of council. But your point was really well taken as to why we'd want to reduce some of that campaigning angst and all that. Unfortunately, that's not even my concern.
I think I figured out, I just now think I figured it out. So I think the logic here with the 6 months is you're working on the budget. And if you have that going in within the budget, I think they were trying to avoid that first 6 months because you're going to have that brand new budget and new council members working on a new budget. It could delay the whole process of the budget once they got elected. So I think they were thinking about the budget process, now that I think it. Because 6 months, right, they get elected in May, so that puts you in November, which gives you that month after of when you're supposed to effectively do the budget. That, I think, is the intent.
But if it's 6 months and 90 days from the petition, you're really looking at 9 months before you can actually have a council member removed. Because if we do a recall, if we did a recall on Saturday, say the election was Saturday and they were voted out, they're done, right? They're out, so it's immediate after the election.
I think if you did the 3 months, I think the point was if you, so this is how I was thinking that scenario. All right, your point would be in 3 months. All right, you would be in August voting on your budget. All right, in 30 days, or to that point, when you get your recall election, you're now kind of delaying that unknown of what happens to that seat and filling that seat. What happens on your budget? Do you add stress to that budget? Are you complicated?
I don't care either, so
I think the wrong burning crowd.
Well, I think the compromise could be then a 3-month limitation with the 90-day followings. That gives us the 6 months.
So it's 6 months before the actual election.
Before that happens. And then I guess part of my question with the recall is, so seat 3 gets recalled, just with
Seat 3, by the way. Let's not use a number, okay? Because someone's going to sit at home and go, what do you mean you're targeting me?
Seat number 12.
Go with seat 6 because we don't currently have one.
Seat 12, was just elected in, so the 9 months, or not the 9 months, but some period has passed, they're 9 months in, they're out a year, so they've been recalled. Council then appoints somebody, and that person will fulfill the remaining 2 years, and then they go in for an election. Just so I'm kind of all on the same page. That's where I'm thinking. I was counting the 6 months as with the 90 days initially anyways. I wasn't thinking that it was a 2-part thing. So I think a 3-month limitation with the you know, the 90 days following up. Kind of gives us that happy medium that most of us are looking for.
So, would that be okay? That's fine. So, again, we're all gonna be able to vote down the road. So do I have a consensus with four city at this point, with the three that at this point, is that what we're looking at? And and it's 30%.
30% of general election.
Of the number of votes cast at the last general city election?
Yeah, that's what four city says. Okay?
What is that, just for clarification? So we had like 800 people.
Right.
That was a pretty,
So it'd be like 240.
that was a non-apathetic vote. would you say?
That was a very active, that was probably our most active voting area.
That was a
What's
very
an apathetic vote?
100.
100, yeah.
So we need 30 people and we can recall. Or
What
this-
was her concern? But they still have to come and vote.
Yeah, okay. No, I just was curious.
That's just a file of the 30% is just.
Correct.
And then it comes back to the vote. So if another 50 people come in and vote, and it's 26, 24, 26 has it.
And you still can't.
Yeah.
All right, here's what I'll do on this, we'll go back to the attorney. We'll do it. Well, because I just thought of a scenario. They get elected because no one went against them, and it counts as one vote. Just want to clarify how that would work.
Wait, say that again?
So
You
technically,
rather oppose.
if you're unopposed, there's no luck. They cancel.
still
they
have an
cancel the
election.
Never mind. I answered my own question. I answered it. They cancel the election. Never mind. I was thinking about the one vote situation. You know where I was thinking on that? Jerry, I'll go ahead and tell you offline what I was thinking. I know what I was thinking. I was thinking a mud vote. That's why I was thinking that. All right. And then what we'll do is we'll come back and bring this back up, think on it, sleep on it. But right now, I'm going to put it in red and put the recall as in red. All right. It's 8:38. We have one last provision. And that is, we were bringing back up the the charter review of the 2 years. But the other thing I wanted to bring up to that, because we did talk about in the very beginning, and we forgot about it, and I wanted to bring back up the comprehensive plan. Are we going to review our charter and our comprehensive plan per charter, and review the comprehensive plan? And the city that does that, yes,
I have a question about our comprehensive plan.
okay,
Tony made a mention that, and I've actually heard it too,
okay,
from our current city manager or administrator,
okay,
that our comprehensive plan is a guide that's not enforceable.
Yeah.
And I want to know how enforceable it is, even if we are going to put things into the charter. Like, what does it matter if our city manager states that it's just kind of a guideline to think about?
If they codify the comprehensive plan and they try to put it in ordinance, if they put it by ordinance and codify certain things like PDs. Yeah. Right. Yes. No. But
Is it even something we should consider? Because
Well-
what I've heard from staff at the city is that it's just a thing that was made.
Well, here's what was done during a meeting that I saw in comparison. I was up here complaining about the 1 acre, 1 home per 1 acre, okay? There is a difference. We're dealing with the one that's here, it's going to be half acre around City Hall. Well, that's the difference between the Heritage Center and the rest of the city, how it's counted. But the city attorney told the council one night when we were talking about this up here, that he said that, yeah, whatever it says up there, as a council, you can dictate that those lots be 1 home, 1 acre. So the council can do what they want when it comes to saying, we're not going to approve this if they can, as a council or whatever, approve this if it's less than what the comprehensive plan says. We're going by the comprehensive plan. See what I mean? It's not set in law, but it is something the city council can say, we're not going to grant you anything less than one home per 1 acre for this area.
So my name is at the top of the current comprehensive plan, so I will not take anything you say personally. But I wasn't. No, and I'm joking. I was chair of P&Z when we adopted the last comprehensive plan, and I think, kind of to your point, what is quote enforceable if council has the will is anything that is proposed has to match the future land use map and the zoning, and if you are going to change something, that requires a vote. Now, council, so planning and zoning votes, and then council votes, and council does not have to follow planning and zoning. But if you want to, so if we're currently zoned for, I mean, there's, I think, 2.5 acre areas, there's 1.5 acres. The Heritage Center was unique and kind of parsed out separately. But if you want to come in and propose 1 acre lots on something that is in the future land use map indicated as 1.5, you have to vote to change the future land use map. You can't, and then the zoning by law has to follow the future land use map. So you can't just change the zoning willy-nilly. Part of our issue is that our zoning maps don't match the future land use map, and we have gotten into situations with that because you can't require a zoning change. If Jody owned land that was in the future land use map as 2.5 acres, but it's currently zoned 1.5 acres, she could parse her land up to 1.5 acres, even though the future land use map showed 2.5. But there is, that's, in my mind, that's the teeth that the comprehensive plan does have, is in those maps that were adopted and do require a vote to change. Otherwise, it is a lot of guidelines. That you're not wrong about that.
I appreciate that, just because I didn't know what the validity of even considering that at this point.
Well, and forgive me if I'm wrong, but when the comprehensive plan was brought up, it was a citizen committee that did it.
Correct.
So we were relying on, this is what the citizens want, and then there were probably town halls regarding it.
There was extensive public engagement.
Okay,
Yeah.
so then it's regarded as something the citizens want in their comprehensive plan. And then that changes by having it reviewed, then having more town halls and all that, and then we go from there. But it does reflect what the citizens want, it's supposed to be.
But we've also had a situation where previous comp plan, not the most current, the one that we had before that, you know, we had a developer come in and proposed in a neighborhood that's gone in, by the way, off of Pullen, where it did not abide by the comprehensive plan at that time, by any stretch, not by the way the layout was, not by where the water features, all of these different pieces, and it was spelled out in the comp plan. The developer came, it could not have been more diabolically different than what our comp plan had. P&Z did not approve it, and council did. So I think your question related to comp plan is really valid, because it isn't that the comp plan itself has issues, although I do think ours, technically there's questions with it, but regardless, it's at the end of the day our elected officials, we've elected them to make these decisions, and they're using these tools, and I think there is a lot of unclarity related to that, but that is a real example where it didn't matter whatsoever what that comp plan actually articulated. Not even a smidge. P&Z said, no way. Council said, sure, we'll do it.
But yeah, because what council did was they voted to change the future land use map and the zoning of that land. I was on council or on chair.
Well, I was going to ask Jerry, and you may know, Jerry and Paul, the comp plan is something that's required by the state for us to do anyway, isn't it? Isn't it something that is?
Yeah.
I think it is.
Yeah, if it's not required, it's definitely a best practice. I mean, I don't.
Yeah.
In Sunnyvale, page 22 of Sunnyvale, section 7.03, the comprehensive plan. And this would fall into what the commission and things like that. But it says the council shall adopt a comprehensive plan that shall be used as a guide by the city seek to establish codes and ordinances to apply essential in providing for the public health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of the city. And by the Planning and Zoning Commission to facilitate the development and master plans of this necessary town deems necessary and appropriate for systemic growth and development. The comprehensive plan shall not be considered a zoning map, nor constitute zoning regulations, or establish zoning boundaries, and shall not be site nor parcel specific, and shall be used to illustrate generalized locations. The depiction of the thoroughfare alignments in the comprehensive is subject to modification by the Planning and Zoning Commission and City Council to fit local conditions and subject to refinement as it occurs. But B, the comprehensive shall be reviewed by the zoning, planning and zoning at a minimum every 5 years. And that any recommended changes shall be submitted to the City Council for approval. This is a rule amendment and modification.
The comprehensive plan itself also states that it has to be reviewed every 5 years. So that would match what's in there.
My question to you is, do you want to put that in the complication of our charter or no? That's the question.
I would say yes.
Okay. I thought this was an easy, and this was like, so I guess quickly, Leslie, you have yes. Jen, what do you think? Troy?
What do I think about wood?
I know, we're right at 47.
No, I think that's the one.
All right. Rich? Okay. And then are we doing two, I'm going to have myself, go ahead.
Include the comprehensive.
Okay.
Now, I mean.
No, you just give me your opinion. I mean, right now.
Okay, so do we have to have it so that, couldn't we write it up so that the council members couldn't change it?
Okay. Here's what I would say. No, I'll tell you what, when you get the language, review the language you see, and then you're going to be able to vote on it and then discuss it at that time.
Okay.
All right.
Royce City also has a comprehensive section in 9.04.
Yeah.
You're on the back end of that, Mike.
I know, it's okay.
Okay.
I'm good.
No, I mean, I like both of them. I think that there's a way we could do an incorporation between them. The fact that the city council, is going to vote on it, they're going to do the approval or denial of, but you have to have a town hall first. I think actually it should be more than just a town hall. There should be public comments. There should be town hall.
Is that Royce City?
Well, Royce City has the town hall. I think it's, where is it in here? It's, at least one public hearing. That's in 9.04, section 1. It's the last sentence of it. Additions to and amendments of the comprehensive plan shall be by ordinance or resolution, but before any such revision, the commission shall hold at least one public hearing on the proposed action.
So, you want to go ahead and just add that language?
I do like that language.
Okay. You got it.
Because I was reading Royce City's closer, and maybe this goes with what we're talking about right now, but in the paragraph at the bottom of that page, it talks about in the case of denial that the commission will communicate its reasons, and the city council has to have 3/4 vote. We could figure out what that number is, because what I found, again going back to my days on planning and zoning, was we would get a ton of citizens that would come to the planning and zoning meeting, and we would have a very contentious, difficult, really spend a lot of time on it. We would recommend denial in this case that I'm thinking of. You go to council the next night, the citizens don't realize they have to come out again. And I would come and explain why we recommended something for denial. Council would talk about it for 30 seconds and approve it and overrule the commission. So I just think you can't require them to talk about it, but I think requiring a majority vote puts or a significant majority vote puts a little more teeth behind it.
And back,
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's under the P and Z section, so.
It's in the, well, it's in their comprehensive.
it's in
plan
their
section.
comprehensive plan 9.04.
That's why I brought it up now. It's in their.
I like Troy City. And I also goes back to what we talked about earlier, why I like the mayor to have a vote.
So, all right, Tony.
I'm for it, you know, I mean,
Okay.
yeah.
So, I just want to make sure, am I getting, not a big deal, I don't know if it's faster, Sunnydale or Roy City?
Troy City.
Roy City. Okay, all right, so in 5 years? Yes. All right, okay. All right, now, going back to our amending the charter, 2 years, 5 years? All right, 2 years or 5 years, what are we talking about amending the charter?
I think that, to me, the charter, unless there's just explosive growth, which there's possibility of, and it could happen, but I think the charter is going to be amended less than the comprehensive plan would. That's just my thought. Now, I mean, I could be totally, I'm just a layman, I could be totally wrong. So I'm thinking that, you know, I think every 5 years for the charter at the very minimum. Yeah.
So my question is, if 2 years from now, there's something in the charter that everybody wants amended, whatever that's, I mean, you can do small amendments anytime, right? I mean, it requires an ordinance change and all that.
But I think what she's getting, you said 3, right? I think I see the logic. The logic is 3 years because that would be the length of the total council. And so I think that's good.
For where we do a forced review, I'm going to call it a forced review. I don't mean it like it's, but we would do a review of the whole document every 3 years is what you're talking about.
No, I think we rely upon that they may, everything.
Not a shall, but a may.
May.
If something, if you want to edit something in the meantime, you can't, like you can't do a special ordinance or whatever to change the charter.
It would have to be no less than, no less than 3 years.
Well, yeah, the citizens would be able to do referendums.
Correct.
And anything, because the power is still in the citizen.
Right.
So how does that process work?
It's just that
Well,
the
we're not
charter.
on referendum, that would be the next part within this, with the IRR initiatives, referendum. Referendum would be when you have enough of the petitions, and I'm sure we'll get to that one in a bit.
Okay, so.
Well, I mean, I think that was under the recall, but that would have been under that referendum. I think it was in that recall selection we did.
Okay.
So, I mean, if we bring that back up next meeting, we can do that.
Yeah. Well,
Is that what you want?
If we're doing that, and we're going that route, then referendum, I believe the number, or the percentage was 20% of the voters from the last general election.
Yeah, I mean.
So yeah, if you want to move it to the next meeting, I think that's fine. But I think I guess my opinion would be, yeah, my opinion would be if we're going with 3 years for a charter revision, I'd want to talk about some way to,
Okay.
if there's something important out there.
All right. Anything else? Are we good? So we're gonna bring that back up, so I'll bring that up to review, and so you can think about it for the next meeting. And remember that you're probably gonna review that in the recall, just to make sure. With that being said, that concludes everything we outlined today at 8:54. So that now, I'm now gonna open up any public forum. Does anyone wish to speak from the public?
May I say something first before you do that?
Yeah.
Okay. What was maybe I missed it, what was the discussion on review of residency requirement language? Did we bring that up? That was on the agenda. For the city manager.
Oh, yeah. We did not. We did not review it. We'll just put it back on the next one. Because we hit every mark at this point. We're doing good. Because, all right, so I'm going to go and open any. Yes, Tony. Okay. Anybody wish to speak to the public? Anyone wish to speak to the public? Mr. Dash? No more than 4 minutes.
Thank you guys, everybody, for sitting on this. just looking and listening, I just want you guys to follow the numbers on some of the stuff. There's a couple of pathways I brought up during your break where you might inadvertently have an appointed city council member, a non-elected one, who actually winds up getting all the way up into the mayor position, so you want to make sure you have safeguards for that. With respect to your recall numbers, you want to, I totally get where you guys are coming. You're like very nervous about having a bad government. You want to be able to come in and fire these guys. I totally get it. I've been there. But one of the scenarios that's already being danced around right now is if somebody hypothetically got elected with 501 votes out of 1,000 votes, well, with 300 votes, the loser can actually, that losing faction can come in and eliminate that person very quickly and then make it so that they can't even stand for election themselves. So it's actually easier to remove them than it is to actually get them elected. So that's something you need to take into consideration. You're going to be inadvertently creating a scenario of what they call prior restraint, which is you're not allowed to think or do certain things that you think you should have, to have academic freedom, intellectual freedom to be able to do the things that you think you need to do without the public coming in a very activist faction coming in and removing you very easily. So those are things you want to think about. You want your city council members well into the future to be able to make tough decisions and without fear of repercussion. The other thing is just being on the city council, and I don't know how Jerry feels about this. He may or may not agree with me on this, but 5 council members is a very small number. So 1/5 of the legislative power is in my hands when I make a decision, and I sometimes feel like it should be.
All right, I'm just going to correct you real quickly. We agreed to 6 members of council.
6 members, but I mean, say currently, so it's 20% right now is what I mean. Sorry. So that would be 20%. It feels like a lot of power in a single council member's hands. And I would even say 1/6 is probably, in my opinion, still too much. I prefer more like 1/7. Then you don't necessarily have to go with the recall response. You just say, that's 1 out of 7 people. And we don't have to worry about them. They don't have any effect, or they have a minimal effect, or, we know that person's crazy whenever we talk about fill in the topic, right? So those are just things I just thought I would bring up from my viewpoint. Say that again.
Yeah, and we also give the mayor vote.
So to that end, and Mr. Russo and I have had talks about, and I bounce back and forth. Totally understand where you're saying, defend your position, defend your ideas, defend your views. However, you are perhaps designing a council where you have an activist mayor. Right, so the mayor's coming in with an agenda. I've set the agenda. I need to defend the agenda. And so Mark and I talked about it, and totally, I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying that I want you to take all sides of this. And so you want somebody who is going to come in and defend their ideas, but also think about the idea of fairness and parliamentary, honesty and stuff like this. You don't want them to come in and say, okay, I got to rig this so I get my outcome that I'm looking for, right? So those are things that I want you to talk about and think about. And I'm totally open to what you guys are doing. I'm not intending to change anything you guys come up with, but just ideas, just listening and following the numbers and saying, these things need to probably be fleshed out, as you're saying, in red before you kind of put it down and send it up to us. Because I'm not intending to make any changes. I'm hoping to just send it forward.
Everything we're doing right now is a work session.
Yeah,
and
cool.
And we're going to vote, hopefully at this point in the vote. Everything is done.
Yeah, so no, that was it. Those are just my observations from watching you guys. I'm very grateful for the amount of time and thought you guys are clearly putting into this. Those are my 2 cents.
All right. Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I want to.
Hold on 1 second. I'm going to close public. Go ahead.
Yes, I handed out 3 pages the last time. One was just something like that. The other 2 is from the Texas state law concerning the home rule and the general law cities and the difference. I use 2.5% to make it easier, but the state law actually says $2.50 per $100 of value, which is 2.5%. So the number is still correct. If you guys could look it over so we could decide if we wanted to put a limit on it, like Amarillo charted it, if we're going to leave it. So if you could just look it over for the next time so we can get...
And to explain, and we're going to discuss it next time for the agenda, is what she's asking is that the evaluations does not exceed 2.5.
Well, I'm asking it should not exceed what it is now, which is like 1.5.
Okay.
Right
for general.
General, but not for home rule, it's
Home rule
2.5.
is 2.5. She's saying keep it 1.5. So we're going to discuss that next. So we know that that's going to be on our next meeting. All right?
No.
All right. So next meeting, we are going to be discussing boards and commissions. Any other topic like Roberta just did. This is your last, well, might not be your last chance, but should be your last chance to review before we're going to go into the hard vote. All right? Now, at any time that you're concerned, next meeting, if you're not bringing it up, it's on you. Because this document you're going to see is I'm going to number everything and make everything look the way we're going to run through the whole document. It might be 3 hours. So I don't know, I might say, we'll talk about next meeting how we're going to go about that. Because it might go fast. I want to say this. I'm very proud of each one of you. We've been getting on our time assignment too. So everything that I was afraid of, I thought we were going to die. We didn't. So kudos to each one of you for the way we handled it. And to say that I am not proud, this has been the best board I've ever served on. Legit. So thank you.
Okay, so next meeting is going to be board commissions.
Board and commissions, any new topics, and also, what else? There was one of the things we were going to bring up again. Oh, the city manager. Residency. And a referendum. All right? Anything else? All right. Initiative, remember, which we're kind of having the recall, but again, we're going to review it. I'm putting it in red. All right? All right? 23rd. We'll be going on the 23rd. All right. Got a motion. Second. Motion adjourned. Second. We're adjourned.